Molweni Prajas. Aibo. Molweni Prajas. I'm hearing a lot of volume here. Grade 7s, you've got a long 5 years ahead of you, if you're not going to greet. Molweni Prajas. Yeah, we're going to have to work on this next year. Okay. It is indeed lovely to be back in the prep hall. Thank you very much for the invitation. But it does honestly feel like I never left. Just to start off, see if there are any intelligent people in the room. What did the closer couple say to one another? Anyone know? Okay. Well, then we're going to have to leave that one for a little bit later. I'll come back to it. Give you some time to think. Thank you, Mr. Hans. Mnu Khaya. That's me, the person standing in front of you. Ngubani Mnu Khaya. Anyone know what that means? Yes, go for it, Mr. Wells. Almost. So Mnu Khaya is Ngubani Mnu Khaya means who is Mnumzana Khaya. That is me. My closer name is Khaya Letu. It means our home. Now how wonderful is that every single Xhosa or African name, Nguni name, has got a specific meaning. Okay? And that means that if you mispronounce that name because it's so difficult, that you can actually change the meaning of that name. Does anybody know, or does anybody have a friend with the name Sipho or Sipho Kazi? Anyone? No? Yes? Ms. Swart is nodding her head. Sipho is spelled S-I. Anyone? S-I-P-H-O. What happens if you say that with in English, if you read that, S-I-P-H? Sipho. Now if you say Sipho in Xhosa, it means, Mnumzana Poni, Sipho means poison or disease. So just by mispronouncing somebody's name, you can completely change the meaning. So it's very important. And that's not just for Xhosa names. That's for Afrikaans names, it's for French names, it's for German names. We need to make sure that irrespective of the name, that we are getting the pronunciation of people's names correct. What do you do if you do not know how to pronounce somebody's name? You ask them. Because the person that you're talking to is the person that knows how to pronounce their name the best. Ask me. Mrs. Blaine's name is a very difficult name if you've never seen it before. Okay? I also had to ask her, how do you pronounce this name? Okay? So, Mnu Khaya grew up on a farm in the Eastern Cape. Knowing that I was different, because everybody told me, why is this guy, he's different, there's something about him, he's different. I realized soon enough that I'm actually not different. I'm exactly the same as all of you sitting here. The only difference is that my parents encouraged me as I grew up to embrace the cultures and the languages of the people that were around me. They didn't isolate it. They didn't say, this is how we grew up, so this is how you are going to grow up. They made it relevant. So from a very young age, I learned how important it was to respect people, their language, and the culture. Because if you have a language, you've often got a culture that comes and is associated with that language. Okay, so if you talk about anything that is French related, then you're going to think about France, and you're going to think about Paris often, right? If you're thinking about Afrikaans, are you going to be thinking about Australia? No, where are you going to be thinking about? South Africa, okay? So it all comes with that language, and the culture come hand in hand. But more important than the language, more important than the culture, remember that that language and culture represents people. And if you disrespect the language and the culture, then you're disrespecting the people that it represents. So we've got to be very conscious of that. And that it's very important when you're speaking in a certain accent that you are conscious that you are not mocking the people that that accent represents. Okay, and it's very unfortunate in South Africa when we hear somebody that's not speaking such great English in a French accent. It's so cute and romantic. But all of a sudden, when somebody is speaking English and not such a great accent, but the accent's Afrikaans or it's Xhosa, then it's not anymore. Then we mock that person, and it's funny. When we should actually be helping one another. Right? So this time when I grew up on the farm, I had a wonderful, deep appreciation and love for isiXhosa, the people, and the culture that it represented. Some common questions that I often get is, what race are your parents? What do they look like? Well, I mean, it's relatively obvious, but that's the Xhosa that comes through, is that I wasn't just raised by two parents that I look like. I was raised by another set of parents that I can also speak the same as. Alright? Which language did you speak first? It's another question. Did you know that you can learn multiple languages simultaneously at the same time? So I asked people, what foot did you put in front of the other first when you started walking? Can you remember? No. Right? So I don't remember either. And my favorite, why are you a teacher? Who of you want to be a teacher one day? Didn't think so. Okay? I ask people who are going into education, going to tertiary studies next year, they're going to university, how many of you want to be a teacher? No. We don't want to go back into a classroom. Why would anyone want to be a teacher? I can promise you now, the last thing that I wanted to do through my whole university, almost my whole university, was be a teacher. Who wants to go back into a school and be working with you guys and moody teenagers? No one, right? So I think at this point, you really need to have an appreciation for the people that are sitting around this room, because we also realize that we're not just working with moody teenagers and young people that don't always have the most wonderful attitude. We're also working with young people that have got an immense amount of talent and potential and creativity. And there are people that are sitting around this room that are not just passionate about teaching, they're not just here to be in a classroom to give you an education so that they can get a salary at the end of the month. No. There are people here that are passionate about what they teach. There are people here that have come to this school specifically because they want to give you the best opportunity to flourish. Mr. Hines, please. Do any of you recognize either of these profiles, where they might come from? Anyone? Yeah. What are you doing on these platforms? Yeah? Okay, let's hear it. Which one? The bottom one, the top one? The bottom one, what's that? Hi, boo. What do you do? Grade 7s. Any of you know the top one? No, you're too young. Some of the teachers are probably too young to know the top one as well. Anyone? Yes? I heard someone? Facebook for old people. Grade 7s. Because we're too cool to answer. What's happening here? What do you see? The first thing you notice. Go for it. I saw half a hand there. Yes. Social media, what about it? What do you see? Well, look at the numbers. Read Cornish. Quite a large amount of followers. What does that mean? That you? Famous. I like to think so. Thank you. That's all I wanted to know. So Mnu Khaya gained this fame by doing what? By speaking isiXhosa. There are other things, but that's probably one of the main reasons. And I'll get to that in a moment. First, I just want to very briefly go over what it's like to be famous. Because I know. I can tell you now, it's not actually all that great. Okay? You think that is wonderful. Who of you want to be famous one day? Yeah. Well, I can tell you now, that is not that great, because I know who of you want a lot of followers. All of you want a lot of followers. Yeah. So today you have no followers. Tomorrow, this has taken about a year. Okay, to get 130,000 and 91,000 followers. Okay. But what happens if I'm now happy because I get all these followers? I wake up tomorrow morning and then I've got no more followers. How do I feel? Sad. Yeah. Why am I feeling sad? Because I'm placing my identity in other people and what other people think about me. So I don't actually care really how many followers I've got. What I care is that people are listening to the message that I'm passing on through that, because I feel that that's far more important. The number of followers doesn't make me who I am. And it's important to remember through this that you must treat everybody the same. No matter how you feel about that person, no matter whether or not they agree or disagree with you, because tomorrow there could be the number 0 over there. No followers. Then what? Where are you placing your identity? Now I said earlier that Mnu Khaya gained this fame, right, through speaking isiXhosa. And I believe that this is a very, very big problem in South Africa. What do I mean that this is a problem? I'm going to pick on some people here. Where's MJ? MJ at school? Oh, can you probably put up your hand? I'm trying to find you here. Okay, MJ, what language do you speak at home? You speak isiZulu. Yeah, Kuluma. Okay, so Kuluma Kai. So then, your home language is isiZulu, right? When you come to school, what language do you speak? English. How many followers do you have on social media? You have like 81 followers. Okay, cool. Oh, thanks, I appreciate the honesty. There's a big difference between 81 and 200,000. So why is he not famous for speaking English? You see the issue? Why is Mnu Khaya getting this popularity for speaking isiXhosa? Yeah, okay, go for it. Because people don't expect it. And I'll tell you why people don't expect it is because very few people have taken the opportunity to speak isiXhosa. That opportunity that we all have sitting in this room here. Okay? And let me go even further. Miss Masimini, how many followers do you have? So I settle, thank you. So I go even further and say, why is Miss Masimini not getting this number of followers for speaking English? Don't you see the imbalance? You see the issue that's been created in society? And we have the opportunity to change that, to shift that thinking here at Bridge House. Are you taking that opportunity? Mr. Hans. You see what direction all the people are walking? Yeah? So we've got people like MJ that have to go, we can swap isiXhosa, this is Zulu there, all the way across to English every single day. Every single day. Do we know how much he's translating in his head? How many of you have spoken to MJ in isiZulu or isiXhosa? Because they're very similar. 1.5 people. 1.5 people have spoken to him in his own language. So you see, we're all going one way. And this is not only for isiXhosa. Do you know how often I've walked around this beautiful campus of ours and there are 2 home language Afrikaans students sitting next to each other, speaking in English to each other? Hoekom? We must take pride in our languages and encourage others to take pride in their languages too. We need to teach other people our languages. Just because we don't teach French at Bridge House Prep doesn't mean that we can't be learning French from French-speaking students. or German or the other languages that we've got on offer. It shouldn't be a one-way street, because what we leave behind is culture with the language and a little piece of who we are. Whereas we should be celebrating that, encouraging that. So we need to move away from the fact that we're all going in one direction. Sorry, it's too soon. Okay. So what happens if we decided to change our perspective? What happened if we decided, actually today at break, we're only going to speak in Afrikaans. We're only going to speak in isiXhosa to our friends. How much could that change? Believe it or not, I was the most anti-Afrikaans student when I was your age. Hated Afrikaans. I used to glue my Afrikaans pages together and tell my teacher I'd done my homework, but I couldn't open it. I hated Afrikaans. Okay? And then I got to Stellenbosch University, and they said, Saki meneer? And the only Saki I knew as a person, so I'm looking around for Saki. And she's waving around this plastic paper like, yeah, do you want me to put your groceries in here? And it was at that point that I realized I couldn't expect other people to learn my language if I wasn't willing to learn theirs. There needs to be a common ground that we are finding with one another. So my attitude has shifted completely. It wasn't someone who told me I had to change. It wasn't somebody who forced that. It was an attitude that had to take place inside of me. Not my parents making me do it, me making that decision for myself. You need to make that decision for yourself. There's no limit on the number of languages that you can learn. There's only a limit that you put on yourself on what you think you can or can't do. So you have this wonderful opportunity if you change your attitude. Mr. Hans. So isiXhosa has opened some wonderful doors for me. Doors that I never even knew existed. And I think that this is beyond just isiXhosa. I think this is also just being able to converse in different languages in South Africa. Here you can see me speaking with some very important looking people at an Investic event. This is just one of those opportunities. If you wish to study medicine, anyone want to be a doctor one day? Okay. Do you know that if you want to study anything in public service in South Africa, you have to do at least a year of an African language? You will do isiXhosa. You will do isiZulu, one or the other, depending on where you study. You have to do it. But why wait to have to do it? Why not learn now? And those of you that when you get to grade 8 and you choose to do isiXhosa, don't think that you're going to choose isiXhosa to run away from Afrikaans, because I'm going to find out if you're working on your Afrikaans. There's no excuse to be living in this environment at your age to only be speaking, definitely not one language. There's no excuse to be only speaking 2 languages. We've got to be speaking at least 3 languages. Our leaders of tomorrow need to be not monolingual, that's 1. Not bilingual, that's 2. We need to be multilingual. We need to be able to be connecting with many different people. And this is becoming very popular in university degrees, to be speaking many languages, to be able to connect with the people around us. These languages that we learn at school should not be seen as a chore, but they're an opportunity for us. And here at Bridge House, as one of my colleagues loves to say, you don't have to. You get to. You don't have to do it, but you get the opportunity to do it. Are you taking that opportunity with both hands? Stands. But more importantly than all of these things and these opportunities, isiXhosa has helped me to make people who had thought that they were invisible feel seen. And the last thing that I'd like you to remember, just to hold on to, and I'm going to maybe send this on to your teachers and have this put up in your classroom, especially our Afrikaans and isiXhosa teachers. Learning a language does not limit your ability to learn, but it strengthens your ability to connect with people And that's what life is about. It's about people, and it's about how we connect and relate to those people. So I want you to take those opportunities that you've got. Respect the people and make sure that you are working each and every day to try and connect with the people. Does anybody know what the Xhosa couple said to one another? Anyone? Mr. Barry's going to give it a go.
I think they said they love each other.
They probably did, Mr. Barry. They may be thinking it. But in this case, the Xhosa couple didn't say anything to one another. They just clicked. Thank you, Bridgehouse.